Okay, Rafael Davis back here again, the real man of real estate, Rafael of D&D Capital Solutions, with my man Stephen Darling and Victor Bell. We here in the studio, having a great session, great talk. If you're just tuning in, man, you're in for a treat. A lot of information is going out. Chiming in from before we took the break, I just want to point out, because we were talking always about the interest rates. Everyone talks about it. We always say it, and something that I often say a lot, and I tell my clients is, I said, how do I word it? I say the right strategy, right, with a competitive interest rate will beat the lowest interest rate with the wrong strategy all the time, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because we're here in Victor's in the building, and he is an investor. So, he could attest to strategies. You have to strategize, when you start to invest. And Steve, from the conventional side, when you bring us your profile, what I mean by that, when you fill out your application and get started and get going, and we look at your profile, whether you're ready to buy that day, that week, we build a program for you. We start to strategize immediately so that we can make sure that you become a homeowner, right? That's what we want. With that, I'm gonna kind of switch gears here a little bit. And because we have two, business owners and professionals, longtime professionals in the building, I wanna ask them both the same question. And whichever one of you guys want to take it first, you can. And I'll start off the question with, what's the one thing you wish you had known when you began your career? I have my take on this also. I'll chime in right there at the end, but I'll let you guys start with that. So to repeat that question, what's the one thing you wish you had known when you began your career, or when you began your career?
Thank you, Vic, for letting me start. In regards to that question, just the first thing that comes to mind is wishing I knew that's the career that was going to be my career. I wish I would have understood that I was going to not only be able to not only love it, because anything you choose to do, give it your very best, give it 100%.
Right.
No matter what job you do, give it 100%. So I've always had that mentality. That's the mentality that I coached with. That's the mentality that I put onto my family. Whatever you do, you better give it your best. And so I found myself in this industry back in 2002, 2003, and been in it many years later, lots of ups and downs, lots of stresses, lots of successes. And here I am, a business owner, multiple business owner, accomplishing goals. They may not be, my business may not compare to some others, might be minute, but to me it's huge. And I accomplish goals each and every year that are set forth and that are decided on. And it is something that to me brings great joy and excitement. I just wish I would have known this was the path that I would have been taking, because there were things that I would have done much sooner that would have probably created an even more successful experience, a successful path. Met more people, good people like Raf and Vic that helped make me a better person. And I would have been able to create a business or businesses that are even more helpful to those out there as we progress into the future, because that's our ultimate goal. That's right. To me, that's the one thing I wish I would have known, is that I would have been sticking with this, because I would have hopefully made some other decisions.
Got you.
Yeah. So, man, that's a great question. For me, in the beginning, I actually, instead of starting with where I was, I would have actually started where I wanted to go. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like, I knew I wanted to get into bigger projects. I knew I should have been raising money. I knew I should have been using debt. But because I got into the business as a really to survive, right? Like, to a real estate investor. So it was a lot of like, okay, get what you think you can get based on what you currently have, which at the time was like nothing. So knowing that, and I raised money and I got partners and I did all that other stuff, but I kind of did the deals that my partner would allow me to do at the time, because they weren't the best properties. Or C properties, D properties. I was the manager. I learned a lot. But really looking back, my career has shaped its way towards the deals that I really wanted to do. So that's huge for me. Nice properties, nice locations. Places where I actually liked. A lot of the information and advice I got when I first started was bad information for me, coming from well-meaning people. Well, get these properties, make them, do this, do that, get what everybody else can get, go where everyone else is. That's never worked for me in my business, and all of my business challenges have come from advice by well-meaning people who was just bad advice for me. It was their advice for themselves, and I took it for face value. So I think that cost me probably about 10 years of my career, unnecessarily working with things that I probably shouldn't have no business touching anyways.
Gotcha. I've heard this little saying, in reference to you saying working with those people, they have good intention, but they have bad advice. And a guy told me once, he said, sometimes, people can be very sincere about what they're saying and what they're telling you, but at the same time, they can be sincerely wrong. Right? So that's one of those things. And for me personally, two things. I wish I would have, one, stuck with it, even while I was doing other things, because I mentioned in an earlier show a while back that I took a break from the business to do martial arts and different things like that. Joked about my little nickname, the Hard Money Black Belt. Now the hard money is hard money to beat because we have so much capital now that we could actually lend from.
Right.
But I wish I wouldn't have taken that break, for one, because I still could have did those things. I still could have did martial arts and still stayed in this field. And the one thing that I didn't do early on is when I was just starting out, I think I should have got a mentor, or something like that. That's one of those things. If I can do it over, I would go back and then I would just attach myself to someone's hip who's gonna do it or who's been doing it for a long time,
right?
And have them mentor me. I've never had a problem with investing in myself. So if there's books I want to read, things I want to read, I learn, I pay for them, I buy them. I think now people don't realize how having someone, when you're just starting out in a career, that can help you not make the mistakes or run into those brick walls or pitfalls that some of us had learning the hard way, so to speak. It's no reason. Now we live in a time and in a day where there's no reason to have to learn it.
Hurt your way.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to do that anymore, man. So like even like with you guys now, that's why I'm always asking you questions. I'm always still learning.
Right.
So I think that's valuable, and I learned that later on in my career. My plan is to be doing this until I can no longer do it, probably transition into being a full-time investor one day, traveling the world, but I'll still be doing real estate. So that's the one thing that I wish I can do over, if I had a do-over.
Right.
So
right. Absolutely.
One other question that I want to ask you guys, and we'll get through this, and we'll try to make it quick because I know we're going to have to take a break here pretty soon. Hopefully I don't mess up, run too much into it. But if you had to think about it, what was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it? We'll start with you, Vic.
My biggest failure, wow. That's a loaded one, man. Because I've had some non-successes, but I've never really failed because I haven't quit.
Oh,
so a lot of things that I've done that may not have worked out the way that I wanted them to or anything like that. Like I'm a big person on responsibility. So like even things that didn't work out well, I'm always like, man, that's my responsibility. That money that got drained out of my account, I should have been more attentive. So so to take it from that perspective, again, it's always the same. I should have went bigger sooner. I didn't have to do the small deals. Everyone says start where you're at. I'm like, well, just go raise the money. Like I should have been I took too long to go bigger, which I eventually did. I tried to do it all by myself. I wanted to own 100% of every deal. That's slow motion. I wasn't going off and getting partners. That was another thing that I did. These are failures of mine. And last but not least, I should have always been raising money. Like not just in a small way, but in a big way. In other ones, I probably should have never sold some of the great properties that I did have. I should have still had them, right? Should have bought out partners that didn't want to be in the deal anymore, all of that stuff. But as it relates to huge failures, any one that sits in my mind, I don't. I'm big for letting stuff go. You got to have a short memory in this business. You know, so yeah, I don't have a lot of failures because I haven't quit. I mean, I know where I'm going now, but I have had some mistakes that I've made along the way, and I just named them. Those are huge, but probably I failed to go bigger sooner. If I can pick one, yeah, and I'm rectifying that. I'll never do that again.
Gotcha. Steve, what about you? About a minute and a half before we take a break.
For mine, is like you said, that's a lot of questions. It's tough to think about. For me, I didn't have. I think I can relate a lot to what you said, Raf, is in regards to not having a mentor, getting in the business so young. I was always it was instilled in me to be a very hard worker, but my dad passed away when I was young, and so I didn't have anyone helping me, mentor me when I was coming up, and so all of a sudden, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I do okay, and so I did well, and I had some extra money as a young adult, and I didn't use it wisely. I bought expensive cars and clothes and just silly stuff when I should have been investing, and I would be in a much better position than I am now if I would have invested that money, if I would have had someone to speak to help guide me, or been smart enough to invest. I think that's probably my biggest failure, was not investing when I could have or should have.
Gotcha. I know we're going to get ready to take another break here real soon. Really quick, I think my biggest failure early on in this career was terrible record keeping, which I've gotten better at. I'll touch on that when we get back here. Just a second. Rafael Davis, Real Men of Real Estate with Stephen Darling and Vic Bell. We'll be back in a sec.